because it is somewhat confusing, at least initially, let us discuss minimum cardinality some more. Again, notice that if we make orders optional for the relationship, but changing mandatory to optional under orders entity, we no longer require that every customer has to have at least one order. So let's do that in, switch back to, where were we? To Notepad. If we close it, reopen the ERD5 O2 customer relationship, and under places relationship, let us make the order rather optional. Okay, in which case we have the customers, they can place 0, 1, or many orders. In other words, prospects are counted as well. Okay, so while this is certainly reasonable, making the customer optional but changing mandatory to optional on the customer entity does not make sense. Okay, so if we make the customer optional and let's have the orders mandatory, that's not going to make any sense. Right now, what we will have is that an order can be placed by 0 or 1 customers. In other words, an order can exist without a customer, which is simply not possible. Okay, an order that does not belong to a customer is simply not an order. There's no logical business explanation as to how this would be the case. In other words, order is called existent dependent on a customer. In other words, it cannot exist without a customer. Okay, so let's reverse the action. Okay, close it and save it. Okay, so this was where we started with. So for compare and contrast, we'll save this as 03 sort of customer held salespeople. Okay, as shown in the bottom right of the slide, sort of orders will have quotes. So SP quote relationship. Okay, and then we'll change the places to provides. Okay, and we'll change customer to, after deleting the comment, to sales person with person ID as a primary key, and we'll have a quote with quote ID on the other side of the relationship. Okay, now let's take a look at briefly at the slide at the bottom right corner of the slide. All right, there is a person number 3 that does not have any quotes. Okay, so that hypothetical example shows that person 3 does not have any quotes. Not very effective in generating leads. It also shows quote 4 without a salesperson attached to it, an automated quote, an online quote. From this, we know that salesperson is not required for a quote. Okay, and also we know that the quote is not required for the salesperson. Okay, so first, because we know that the salesperson is not required for the quote, let's parse this out. The salesperson is not required for the quote. The salesperson is optional. Okay, so the quote can be generated or provided by, I should say, 0 or 1 salesperson. Okay, because the quote is not required for the salesperson. In other words, salesperson can provide 0 or many quotes. Okay, the quote is optional in the relationship as well, and we have 2 hollow circles on both sides of the relationship. Again, the quote can be provided by 0 or 1 salesperson, so either automated quote or provided by 1 and only 1, or I should say single one, a single salesperson. In other words, not 2 or 3. Reading from left to right or the other way around, a salesperson provides 0, 1, or many quotes. In other words, there could be salespeople like that person 3 we talked about earlier that don't have any quotes at all. Okay, so let's save those changes and switch back to the presentation. Next, we're going to discuss the classification of cardinalities, starting with the maximum cardinality, which we sort of talked about being a little bit easier to digest. So there are 4 classifications of maximum cardinality defined on this and the following slide. All of them describe the cap or upper limit on number of entities participating in a relationship. Single valued or functional relationship has a maximum cardinality of 1. Places relationship is functional for order because an order must be related to a maximum of 1 customer. the classification looks at one side of the relationship only, while the remaining three look at the maximum cardinalities in both directions, which is typically the case. By far the most common type of relationship has a maximum cardinality of 1 in one direction and more than one, okay, or many in the other. This is called one to many or 1-m relationship. Both places and provides relationship, as is shown on the screen, are one to many. One customer places many order, one salesperson provides many quotes. Okay, with all these, differences or variations that really have to do with minimum cardinalities that were discussed previously. All right, next. Another common type of business relationship has maximum cardinality of more than one or many in both directions. This is called a many-to-many or M-N relationship, as described in the slide. All right, we'll reopen ERD2 if necessary by closing the 3 and opening 2 and saving as 4. Okay, the 4 is going to describe the relationship between the customer and product. Okay, as abbreviated by PORD or PROD. Okay, here we're going to replace the orders entity with product. Okay, which is also a regular entity, and it has a product ID primary key, as we know from before. The places relationship is going to be replaced with purchases. Okay, so many customers can purchase many products, and for now let's make both minimum cardinalities mandatory, and we are right now concentrating on the maximum cardinalities anyway. So if you close this is clearly going to read that many customers can purchase many products and the other way around. Okay, which certainly makes sense. Okay, now we need to go back to the slide and discuss the minimum cardinalities as well. You can see that they don't match what I just had in the ER Assistant. Okay, but making both entities optional in the relationship, as this graphic here does. We are saying that there are customers without any product purchases, and we already sort of discounted those. Those are the prospects, right? And there are also products that nobody is buying, right? So the customer can purchase 0 or many products. So this 0 here essentially describes this hollow circle on the right side next to the product entity, describes those those prospects, which we again sort of eliminate. On the other hand, the products can be purchased by 0 or many customers. So this 0 on the left side describes products, okay, that are not really being bought by customers. In other words, the products that are not selling well. All right, so both of these are sort of reasonable assumptions, but both have their sort of downsides, right? Prospects as really not customers, and products that are really not selling, will eventually be eliminated anyway or discontinued. Okay, so to stay on the more general side, we will go back and make these again optional. First, starting with a customer. So by making a customer optional, we're saying that a product can be purchased by 0 optional customer or many customers, right? So there can be customers that are not really, or other products that are not really purchased by any customers. That's that left 0. Okay, by making, you can see how it's kind of confusing, right? By making the product optional, okay, we're saying that there are customers that purchase 0 or many products, and this 0 that represents really the customers that are not buying the products, right? And those are again prospects we sort of eliminated, right? So again, one more time, if the customer is a mandatory, okay, the product must be purchased by at least 1 and potentially many customers. Okay, by making product mandatory, okay, changes this 0 to 1. A customer purchases at least 1 product, otherwise it's not a customer, or obviously many of them, which is generally the case. Okay, and I'm going to leave it as it is like this. You can leave it in which state you feel is best. Okay, so we're going to now let's see, close this guy and switch back to the presentation.